הקדוש, בוקר אור, שבוע טוב. Masechet Bava Kamma Daf Amud Aleph 74a1. The Gemara is now coming and saying, Hechidami, what is the case of the Braita? Okay? And it says like this. We were just talking about that in the Seifa, we were switching the order and doing azama, which means the order was, is it eye and tooth or tooth and eye? That's the switching of the order. Plus, Imanu Ayitem. Imanu Ayitem means you guys were with us, which means hazama. And the Reisha was also the former part of the Braita was the same thing. As we said, so they have to pay the Dme'ayin to the rabbi, to the master. Okay? So, what's the case exactly? If you're going to tell me that the last witnesses, which are the Mezinim, do not agree to the first ones, that he actually did anything whatsoever, so they have to pay the entire thing to the master. Meaning like this, if the second group of witnesses, they completely disagreed, and they said that he never actually came and never, bichlal, never, so then what are you talking about then? They have to pay for the entire thing. Ela pshita, but rather, it's obvious, that they are agreeing that there was a chabala down here. Because the edim, the second edim, they changed everything, right? And they did all these things. So what is the case exactly? If it's going to be a case where the edim, the last ones, are going to come and they're going to be me'edim, right? That they came and so still, right? You still have to pay something to the master. Because when you're going to obligate him, he wasn't obligated in anything yet. But the edim achronim are coming and saying the chavalot happened at an earlier date, which means they actually said that the master did hit him, but at an earlier date before the first witnesses came. And therefore, when the first witnesses came and they testified about the Kabbalah, he was already mechuyav l'shachrer et ha'evir. Which means like this. What is the case exactly? You have the second witnesses. And the second witnesses come and they say, Imanu Ayitim. They made them in Zomim. But do they disagree bichlal that the master hit the servant?
No, they do.
So therefore, here he comes and he says, here be'emet, what was the case? The case was they come and they say that they're edim zomim. Fine. But edim zomim. Edim zomim means that they were false witnesses. Okay? But they agreed that it actually did occur. It did happen. The master came and he punched out the eye of the servant. And he knocked out, but the second that he did that, so now he's obligated to free the servant. But so then what was the problem then? The problem was, when did it happen? The second witnesses come and they say that it happened earlier, a day earlier, 2 days, it doesn't matter what, earlier. So he was already chayav to liberate, right, the servant. Okay? But he says, but they still say, but Imanu Ayitim, you guys were with us, which means you guys are false witnesses. What are you guys doing? That's false witnesses. So says the Gemara, Vidila Amad Badin. Now, if you're going to tell me that there was no Hamada Bedin, Hamada Bedin means that there was no verdict. They didn't go in front of a court. So Kati still, they have to pay the entire thing to the master. Meaning now what we're trying to find out is, who do you have to pay? Do you pay the master or do you pay the slave? If the slave is already freed, so obviously you pay the slave. If the slave is not freed, who do you pay? The master. Because when they were Edim Zomim, who did they want to make lose? The master. They wanted the master to lose out.
Wait a second. So, if they they should reverse even the verdict.
So again, Akati still, you should pay the entire thing, the entire value of the Evet to the rabbi, to the master. He still wasn't obligated, meaning as long as the master did not go to court, he doesn't let his slave free. One more time, he punched out the eye of the Evet. Does the Evet go free? Yes, but you have to go to Hamad Bedin. You have to go to Betin. And the Betin now comes and say, now you're free. But until then, no, well, he could always volunteer and free him. Right? But we're not talking about that always. Right? So he comes and he says, Ela Barado, the Hamad Bedin. There was Hamad Bedin. So since there was going to be Hamad Bedin, so therefore, obviously, we're talking about, right, that he is like that, he's going to become Batur. So Amale Ravacha, Bered Ravika, Le Ravashi. So says Ravacha, the son of Ravika to Ravashi, Dukia de Rava Mehecha. Right? Where was Rava coming and making a diuk that a chasha is tchilat hazama? Remember, a chasha means conflicting testimonies is the beginning of making them false testimonies. How does he know that? He says, if you're going to tell me that it's coming from the Reisha of the Braita, he says, is it bichlal achasha from the beginning? You're saying it's batel? Since if there's not going to be hazama, sa'aduta kavatayu kakaima, the edut which is mitkabelet in bedin is the exact same thing. The dina kavatayu paskina, but we're going to say the exact same thing. Tiesh bichlal matay mana, because at the end of the day, bichlal matay is mana, which means like this. What happens if there was no hazamada? Remember, hazama means imanu ayitem. There was only achasha. But what was the achasha? It wasn't the achasha that we explained at the beginning. Two people say he killed and two people say did not kill. Here they both said that he knocked out the eye, and they both said knocked out the tooth. The question is the seder. What's a seder? First was the eye and then the tooth, or the tooth and the eye. So bichlal matay mana means if I come and I tell you, right, that the how do you call this? That you have to, that he first did, let's say, the tooth, right, and then the eye, or the other. So it's part of it. Meaning, at the end of the day, the bedin is paskening something that anyway would have been done. If there was no hazama done, making them into false witnesses, the bedin would have still paskened that way, right? And therefore, there wouldn't have been a problem, right? The dina which means the first edut, which is saying is dime ayin, is much more valuable than the dime shen. So therefore, hilka kamayu de kamikashe. So the dinim rishonim are muchashim, and therefore it's going to be batel. But the second ones, lo mitchachashemide. There's no achasha, right? And therefore, he comes and he says, so if so, it could be that because of that, you could still say that there is dina zama in the middle ones. But in the case where you had two witnesses coming and saying that he killed, and two people say that he didn't kill, you can't bring a proof to that. Meaning, in our case, the achasha is not the regular achasha that we always speak about. The regular achasha we speak about is two witnesses come and say he killed. Two witnesses come, he did not kill. According to the second witnesses that they do achasha to the first one, there's nothing here. It's not that they agree that he killed, but on Monday. It wasn't that. It's two yes, and two that he's scot-free. Two that he's guilty, and two that he's completely free. Here, they both agree that he's guilty. The question is, what was the order? So if don't come and tell me that you want to deduce from here that hachasha is always tchilat hazama. It's not true. It's not always tchilat hazama. In this case, it's yeah, because it's different. Because technically they're both saying the same thing, but not in every single case. Okay, fine. So says now the Gemara. Elmaleh, so he comes and he tells, right? So Rashi, he comes and he says like this. Ravashi comes and he tells him, Ravashi is answering now to Ravacha Bered Ravika, yeah? So he says, Rava Savan, Midreisha B'Shalosh Chitot. Since the Reisha, we're talking about three different tests, like three different groups of witnesses. Seifa Nami B'Shalosh. So too the Seifa is also three different witnesses. Three different groups of witnesses. Remember, every time you have witnesses, it has to be two. So three different groups of witnesses. So you had a diuk in the Seifa. Kegon, for example, two people came and they said, one more time, everyone understood the case of three? Why are there three groups? What was the first group? עוד פעם?
שתיים האלה עשו על זה, ושתיים האלה עשו על זה, ובא השלישי, אתה רוצה להגיד?
Yes. What does that mean? The first two come and they say, בוא נגיד, קודם כל, עין ושן. Second group come, the middle group, שן ועין. What's the third group? עמנו הייתם. לעשות אותם הזמה. So that's three groups, three kitei edim. So he comes and he says, the fact that the Reisha was talking about that there were three groups of edut, so to the Seifa is also talking about three groups of edut. So what's the case? Two witnesses come and they said, he pilit shino. First was the tooth, and then was the ayn. They paskin the din. They paskin the halacha. That's it. They finished. They closed the verdict. Another two witnesses come and say, no. It was first the eye, and then the tooth. So all of a sudden there was a chasha. And then that's why it says that all of a sudden they were found to be non-zomemin, the first group, right, through a third group. So they have to pay deme ayin to the Rav. Why? What was the first group?
Wait, why to the Rav?
Because he says, because once Batlai Utam, before the third
but
game.
we already acknowledged that they did the damage.
But that's why. Because once we say that Achasha is Tchilat Hazama, so therefore, the fact that they come and they said that he punched out the eye, so therefore he has to now pay the eye.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But the point is,
now if you're going to tell me Achasha is not Tchilat Hazama, so am I Meshalme? What do they have to pay? They were already done Achasha at the beginning. But we actually learn from here that Achasha is the beginning of Hazama. Okay, now Abaye is going to answer you. Abaye Amalecha. In the Reisha, you cannot have less than three groups of witnesses. Because we learned that the master said like this. But in the Seifa, why do I need 3 kitot? Because the servant said that. Anything that the Eved says, the slave, he wants to go free. So whatever he's going to say, it doesn't matter. Yeah? The master, if he's already saying which one came first, but it's always the detriment of the master, right? No matter what, the master is going to lose out. The question is he going to lose out big or small, right? Meaning, is he going to lose out in the demand, the value of the eye, or the value of the teeth? But at the end of the day, the master is losing out because the slave is going off free and he has to pay something. In the case of the slave, what does that mean? The slave obviously wants to go free. So why in the world am I even taking into consideration, right, to come and even say that we're talking about 3 different witnesses and that really, we're talking about 2 groups of witnesses and they're contradicting each other in Hazama at the same time. Okay, fine. So Matkifla Rabbi Zera comes now and he asks the following question. Why don't we just say that he first blinded the slave? 74b. Okay? Nepuk beno, so let him go out free. He pilit chino, when he comes and he takes out the eye, nepuk b'shino, so he goes out with the eye. Simeeteno, if he comes and he blinds him, he pilit chino, nepuk b'shino, so why don't we just say that he goes out with both, and he doesn't have to pay anything? Meaning like this. If right now, right, he comes and he does the eye, right, so then let him come out with the eye. If he does the tooth, let him come out with the tooth. What happens if he did both? So why don't we just say he goes out with both?
זה לא fair לסלב, he's losing 1 count.
Doesn't matter.
No, ככה הוא גם מקבל כסף.
That's what we're saying. No, but that's the question.
לא, אז זה לא fair לסלב.
The question is, why don't we just say, right, that listen, if the master already gave him a beating, so it's 1 beating. אם אתה כבר נותן לו את המכת, תן לו את המכות טוב, מה הבעיה?
But it's not fair.
Why is it not fair?
You give him few makot in 1 punishment.
That's good.
It's not right.
Why is it not right?
Because he damaged few parts of his body. You need to pay on it.
It doesn't matter.
He damaged 3 counts. You need to pay 3 counts. One of them go for free, 2 of them payment.
No, but that's what he's saying here.
Is that all right?
So the Gemara answers Gzerat HaKatuv. That's why. Not because it's Sfara.
Okay.
It's not a Sfara. It's not logic. Because really, Be'emet, if it's logic, Be'emet, yeah, why?
Yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
thing. He says, no, it's the exact same thing. But rather, it's Gzerat HaKatuv. The Pasuk says, Amar Rabbi Alecha Kamaka, Tachat Eno, Velo Tachat Eno Vishino. Tachat Shino, Velo Tachat, meaning in the Pasuk, it says it's 1 count. 1 on 1. That's it. So once he goes up free, that's it. There's nothing else afterwards. So Amar Rav Idi Bar Avin, says Rav Idi Bar Avin, Afana Nami Tanina, we also learned it. Ganav al Pishnayim Tavachu Machar al Pishnayim. We said if he stole with 2 witnesses, and he also slaughtered and sold it with through the same 2 witnesses, and they were found to be Zomim, they have to pay everything. My love, we're not talking about that they first came and they testified about the Gneva, and then they came and they testified on the Tvicha. V'uzmu la Gneva v'chazru v'uzmu la Tvicha. And then they were made edim zomim on the Gneva, and then also on the Tvicha, right? Veha kevan sheuzmu la Gneva. So since they were also already huzmu on the Gneva, shelagabet Tvicha v'lehu muchashin. So they're already considered muchashin. V'ktani, and we learn mishalmim lo etakol, that they're going to pay everything. V'isal gadan. If you're going to tell me now chasha lav tchilat hazamayim, that a chasha is not tchilat hazama, at Tvicha may mishalmim. So then why are they going to come and pay on the Tvicha? Alalav shmamina, but rather we could say hachasha tchilat hazamahi. Right? Achasha is the beginning of Hazama. Right? That's what we're saying. Achasha is the beginning of Hazama. That's what we want to say. So says the Gemara, it's not true. We wanted to say Achamaskil, what are we dealing with? Kegon, for example, Shuzmu ala Tvicha Techila. They were made Medim Zomemim on the Tvicha at the beginning. Okay? And therefore, and then afterwards on the Gneva. So it comes out that the Bishah Shemtchayvu Tashlumesh Shnayim V'Shlosha LaTvicha. So when they are obligated, the Duta Gneva was already kayemet. And therefore, when they were going to be uzmu on afterwards, it comes out that they were also going to be chayav kefel, and therefore also you had Bava Kamma Uve plugta, and this is going to be the machloket, right? Edim shuchushu, to do with edim chushu v'sof uzmu. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Elazar chad amar neragin, v'chad amar neragin, which is something incredible. It comes out that this is actually a machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. If right now you have edim that they were first tan hachasha, and then afterwards hazama, do you kill them or do you not kill them? Machloket, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. So that's what's actually coming up. So this machloket between Abaye, right, and Rava is actually a machloket between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. So Tistayem, we want to actually bring a proof that Rabbi Elazar is the one that says en neragin. Because did you realize it just said it's a machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar? One of them said this and one of them said that, but it didn't tell you who said what. So the Gemara is going to say, Tistayem, let's bring a proof that it's Rabbi Elazar that says neragin. Tamar Rabbi Elazar says Rabbi Elazar, edim shu chushu benefesh. When you have a deem that they were chushu, right, on a nefesh, lokin, they get lashes. You're going to tell me now, Rabbi Elazar, who it's Rabbi Elazar that he said neragin. So why lokin? Why do they get lokin? It's a love that's given as mitab bedin, and any negative commandment which is given as a warning of mitab bedin, you don't get lashes. But rather, for sure, you have to say that according to Rabbi Elazar, he says that en neragin. So tisayim, you're right. That's what we actually want to say. You're right. Rabbi Elazar is the one that says, right, that this is the shita of Rabbi Elazar, that he says that they do not get killed. That means once they have a chashad, they do not get killed. Okay? So says the Gemara, lokin? How are you even going to think about giving lashes? It's 2 against 2. Why are you going to rely upon the second two? Maybe rely upon the first two. Abaye says, Barug b'raglav. No, I don't have to even rely upon witnesses. The dead man came walking in. You ever heard of it? An expression, the dead man walking? What does that mean? They testified that the guy was dead. And all of a sudden he comes into Bedin. So therefore, it's not a chidush that I'm going to believe the second 2 witnesses. They said that they were false witnesses, that the guy killed. But the one that was murdered walked into Beddin. So unless the guy did tchiyat metim and I don't know what, and he comes back in, obviously the guy was false. So it makes sense. Understood? Fine. We're now in Mishnah. Mishnah in Daled Amubet. Says a Mishnah, Ganav al pi shnayim, if he stole with 2 witnesses, but he only was testified against him on the tvicha mechira, on the slaughtering or the sale, with 1 witness. Or al pi atzmo, or he was modeh. Yeah? Which means that he himself said it. Mishalem tashlum kefel, he only pays double. But he doesn't pay back the 4 and 5. He only pays back the kefel. Why? Because he had the 2 witnesses. Yeah, it makes sense, correct? He had the 2 witnesses. He stole. He has to pay kefel. But not Bava Kamma. Ganav v'tavach b'Shabbat. If he did geneva v'tvicha on Shabbat in itself, or ganav v'tavach l'avodah zarah, or he did the geneva and tvicha to the avodah zarah, or ganav mishlaviv, he stole it from his father and then the father died, and then afterwards tavach machad, or ganav v'igdish, or he did a geneva and then he was magdish, and then afterwards tavach machad, he's going to pay back the tashlum kefil, but he does not pay back tashlum arba v'chamisha, because the tvicha and the mechira was done b'ptur. Tvicha b'Shabbat, there's a ptur. The avodah zarah was a ptur, right? Because when he's going to be tvicha on Shabbat, what happens? When he slaughters on Shabbat.
הוא לא עשה מילה, הוא לא למלאכה, זה לא נגד המלאכה. מה שאמרנו שבוע שעבר, שהוא לא מקבל עונש על זה.
אבל ודאי שכן, מה זאת אומרת? תביכה בשבת.
אז מה אמרת שבוע שעבר שהוא לא מקבל?
גנבה. The tvicha, he's slaughtering. Slaughtering is one of the 39 melachot, right? So if he's going to be patur, he does avodah zarah, so it's going to be a ptur, right? If he's going to be kimniv d'rabba mineh. The same thing, if he was already yarashet be'ema before the tvicha mechira, he's patur, because the tvicha mechira was not b'misur, it's in the So he's on all these cases, since the tvicha mechira, right, was done in a way of a ptur, that's why you only pay kefel, you only pay double, you do not pay the Bava Kamma. Says the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, Kodshim shechayav achrayutam, Kodshim, that you're going to be chayav in achrayutam means that you're obligated to pay it back. Meshalem tashum, but you do pay back the 4 and 5 times. Shem chayav achrayutam, and if you don't have to come and pay the 4 and 5 times, right, you're going to be patur. So basically what happens is that if you have certain types of korbanot that you do have to pay back, right? So for example, let's say you actually were magdish zeh, that if it gets lost or stolen or whatever it is, or gamam sasul, you have to pay it back. So therefore, chatat, asham, certain things like that. So then something happens, you have to pay it back. But if it's something that, for example, it was like a nedava, a present, So now if something happens that you don't have to pay back. So in such a case, you don't have to pay the Bava Kamma. You're going to be patur. Fine. Now we're going back on the Gemara to the first case of the Mishnah. The first case of the Mishnah was you had two edim on the Geneva, but only one ed on the Tvicha Mechira. Says the Gemara, al pi echad, pshita, obviously. How in the world do you want to obligate him to pay Bava Kamma if there's only one witness? One witness? Ziklum. Rien. Shum davar. Nothing. Nothing. One witness is nothing. Yeah? So Amri, they said, HaKadosh comes teach you that his own testimony is like edechad. Just like al pi edechad, ati edechad umitzaref badeh. What happens if you have one witness, but now another one comes together with him? They could be mitzaref, and they could be mechayev. So too al pi atzmo, ki atu edim, so too when he comes and he does it on his own, when witnesses come, he's also going to be mechayev. This comes to school Rav Huna Marav. Everyone understood the case. One more time. One witness comes and he says, right, there were two witnesses come and said he stole. Okay. So that they would already be mechayev oto, keren v'kefed, right? The principal and the double. One witness comes and he says he slaughtered or sold it. It's only one witness. Anything happens? Nothing. But if another witness comes and he combines with him, now he's obligated to pay back the 4 or 5 times because now there are two witnesses. They combine together and there are two witnesses. Now what happens if he admitted and he said, I slaughtered and I sold it? So you have two witnesses that he stole, and then on his own, kol hakavod, he was chazar b'tshuva, he says, I slaughtered and I sold it. So at the beginning, he doesn't pay. But now if two witnesses come, he does have to pay, says the Gemara. Because just like the first case, if there's one witness, another witness comes and they combine, they make him pay. So to now, even though he was modeh al pi atzmo, which means he admitted on himself, when two witnesses come, he has to pay. Says the Gemara, modeh beknas. If somebody's going to be modeh beknas, and then afterwards comes a din, he's going to be patur. Right? And therefore, obviously, we're not going like Rav Huna Amar Rav. Because according to Rav Huna Amar Rav, the fact that he came and he was modeh beknas, even if two witnesses come afterwards, he's still going to be patur. And we don't say that he's going to be chayav. So obviously, we're not going like Rav Huna in the name of Rav. So let's try to analyze this raita. Gufa, let's try to see this. Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav says Rav Huna Amar Rav, modeh beknas v'achak ba'edin. If somebody's going to be modeh beknas and afterwards comes a din, he's going to be patur. Eitvei. They ask a question on this. Rav Huna. Masechet Rabbi Gamliel. There was a story with Rabbi Gamliel. Shesimeh et en tevi avdo. That he came and he blinded Tevi's slave. Vaya sameach simcha gdolah. What? And he was very, very happy about it. Right? Why? Because basically he never wanted to free him because of the Yisur of Leolam Ba'em Ta'avod. So now that he blinded him, he was happy. Mitzaol Rabbi Yoshua, he found Rabbi Yoshua. And he says, do you know that he came out free? He says, Lama. I blinded him. He says, now there's nothing because there's no edim. Right? Which means it's a knas. It's a penalty. And the fact that right now you come and you admit to it, it's nothing. So from the words of Rabbi Yoshua, it's mashma that dafka, right? Because Tevi did not have edim, that's why he wasn't obligated to free him. Hayesh lo edim, but if there was edim, he's obligated to free him. Shamina mina, so we learn from here, modeh beknas v'ba'edim. You're going to be chayav, not patur. You're going to be chayav, not patur.
No, modeh beknas, not patur.
One more time. No, modeh beknas is patur, זה לכולי עלמא. עכשיו השאלה, מודה בקנס, what? מודה בקנס הוא פטור, אבל מה קורה אם אחר כך באו עדים? זאת אומרת ככה, what is the concept? מודה בקנס?
When he
before the עדים.
Before the עדים.
One second, everyone, one second. One more time. What is the concept of modeh b'knas? Modeh b'knas was, you have to pay a penalty.
Yeah.
But if you come and you give yourself in beforehand, we come and we say, listen, right, you give yourself in, kol hakavod, you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what happens if there's witnesses? Right? Now why? Because there's a svara to say, listen, you know why he came? Because he wanted, because there's witnesses. בדיוק. אבל זה לא חוכמה. If you're going to tell me there's no witnesses, so then, okay, fine, כל הכבוד. אני נותן לך, איך אומרים, על הגב, כל הכבוד. You're a good guy. מה? טפיחה לשכם. כל הכבוד. Yeah? So I say, מודה בקנס פטור. But if you already know those witnesses, אז כל בן אדם יעשה את זה. תחשוב, בן אדם הוא חייב קנס, כן? הוא כבר ראה, יש שתי אנשים, הוא רץ לבית דין, אני עשיתי ככה. ואתה רוצה להיות פטור? אתה חצי
זה גם בסדר, כי מי אמר שהעדים
יפטרו? לא, בגלל אתה כבר ידעת. אתה כבר ידעת. Yeah, you understood or no? Yeah, okay. So what happens? So therefore, one more time. Rav Huna, in the name of Rav, comes and he says, מודה בקנס, ואחר כך באו עדים, עדיין פטור. That's the shita of Rav Huna in the name of Rav. Yeah, one more time. Let me go back. Rav Huna in the name of Rav. Modeh beknas. And then witnesses come, he's still patur. Why? He came first. There was two witnesses, it doesn't matter. But asks on that the Gemara, we have a proof from Rabbi Yoshua. Comes Rabbi Gamliel, and he blinded his own slave. And after blinding his own slave, he was so happy because now he was able to free his slave.
So you can't tell me Rabbi Gamliel doesn't know this halakha.
No, but Rabbi Yoshua. One second. So Rabbi Yoshua comes. One second. Rabbi Yoshua comes. 1 second. What happened is that this guy is all happy. Rabbi Gamliel is all happy that he blinded his servant. So he comes to Rabbi Yoshua and he says, by the way, you should know, my slave is free. He says, why is he free? Because I blinded him. He says, 1 second, but you have witnesses? Meaning that 1 second, if you don't have witnesses and you are modeh b'knas, Gamadu, you're patur. He doesn't go free. What are you talking about? So he doesn't go free. What are you so happy? He doesn't go free. Now, mashma, if there was witnesses, and he was modeh b'knas, and afterwards the witnesses come and they said, he's still going to be chayav. Because it's mashma that if there was witnesses, so Mehmet, he would have gone out free. But 1 second, it's not true because he was already modeh b'knas at the beginning. So even if there was witnesses, it should be patur according to Rav Huna in the name of Rav. So Elmaleh comes and he says, "Shane Rav Gamliel, it's Rav Gamliel, delo bifnei bet din odu." He didn't admit in front of a bet din. For Rav Yoshua av bet din ava, but Rav Yoshua he's av bet din. So answers Gemara, yeah, he was av bet din, but he wasn't in the bet din. So since he wasn't in the bet din, that's why it's going to be a different halacha.